Hello, friends. Today I want to tell you a story that seems impossible, but it's true. A story about a small shop, about bold dreams, about crises that break everything in their path, and about faith that changes the world. This is the story of Nintendo. But it's not just about business. It's about the human spirit. And it has lessons you can take with you in your life. Imagine old Kyoto, a tiny shop on a narrow street. Sometime in 1889, my grandfather, Fusajiro Yamauchi, stands over a table, the smell of fresh paper and ink filling the room. He makes Hainfuda playing cards, handmade, each card a small work of art. His shop may seem simple and unremarkable, but in Fusajiro's eyes lives a dream, to create something more than just a business, something that will remain in people's hearts. It was a time when the world changed slowly, and competitors quickly emerged with other cards and cheap toys. In the 1950s, Nintendo was barely able to stay afloat. The cards weren't selling, the factory was working intermittently, and any day could be the last. At that moment, my generation, my grandfather and my father, began to realize that the small shop was no longer enough. We were on the verge of collapse, and no one believed in us. But here's what I realized then. A crisis is not the end. It's the moment when real ideas are born. We started trying new things. At first, they were toys, plastic handheld robots, mechanical gadgets, strange devices that barely worked. Every failure felt like a punch in the ribs. Investors turned us away, friends laughed, and workers lost hope. But I saw a lesson in every failure, an opportunity in every defeat. One day, standing in the smell of fresh plastic and tar, I realized that the little card shop no longer existed in our minds. Nintendo had to be something bigger. And that's when we began to transform. Not just sell products, but create experiences, invent new worlds, captivate people. The first successes did not come immediately. There were strange inventions that no one bought. Ultra Hand, a mechanical arm that stretched, seemed crazy. But with each unsuccessful product we learned not to be afraid of mistakes, not to be afraid of seeming strange. I remember meetings with the team. Engineers argued, designers drew the impossible, and I just listened and felt that the future was being born in the midst of this chaos. And then Shigeru Miyamoto appeared. Young, full of ideas, with crazy drawings in a notebook that he never showed anyone. He became my ally in my wildest dreams. Every drawing he made was like a breakthrough into a new world. I saw ideas become products, and products become legends. The first crisis taught me an important lesson. Never give up, even when everything is against you. The small card shop could have disappeared forever, but we chose risk and creativity. We chose to believe in people and in what we create. And it is this belief that has made us who we are today. The time came when we realized that simply making toys wasn't enough. The world was changing rapidly. Electronics were entering homes. People were starting to play with the first arcade boom. And we were faced with a choice: stay in the safe zone or risk everything and dive into the new, unknown world of video games. The first attempts were chaotic. I remember the smell of the soldering iron and the clatter of the machines that made our first electronic toys. Every day was a struggle. Investors looked at me grimly, saying, "Video games are a bubble. This is going to blow. You're going to lose everything." My team nervously fiddled with wires and boards, and I could feel my heart beating so fast I could hear it even above the noise of the factory. And then we made our first real hit, Donkey Kong. I remember the moment Shigeru Miyamoto showed me the first sketches. A giant ape stealing a girl, a little hero in a cap jumping upstairs. It was bold. It was innovative. And in that moment, I felt fear and doubt turn into adrenaline and inspiration. We risked everything. The factory was working 24/7. The designers barely slept, and we were constantly testing every element of the game. The first prototypes broke, the electronics failed, and I almost felt like the whole world was telling me, "This is impossible." But we kept going. We knew that every failure was another step toward success. The first Donkey Kong arcade machines were in small arcades, and I remember the moment when we heard the first shouts. Yes, I beat the level. People were laughing, nervous, jumping for joy. And in that moment I felt, we are creating something more than a product. We are creating emotions. We are changing the way people see entertainment. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The initial success with Donkey Kong was instant, but subsequent projects often failed. We tried new ideas, and often no one bought them. The team got frustrated, the investors got angry, and I was left in the middle of this chaos, trying not to lose faith. That's when I realized one important thing. Success doesn't come overnight. It comes through patience, through learning from mistakes, through believing in an idea even when no one else does. This period taught me that every step forward is a risk, and only those who are willing to accept fear can create something truly great. Nintendo began to slowly emerge from the shadows. Small victories gave faith, and big dreams gave direction. We were no longer just making toys. We were creating a world that captivated people, made them happy, and brought them back to their childhood, even if they were long grown up. And although it was only the beginning, I already felt that our journey would change not only the company, but also the gaming industry. Every defeat, every failure, every nervous night test made us stronger. Every click of a key, every sound of a soldering iron, every cry of joy of a player. All this was shaping a future that could no longer be stopped. We were on the threshold of a new world. Arcades brought joy and money, but they had limitations. Players wanted more, to play at home, to play with their families, to create their own worlds without arcade machines. And we decided to risk it all. The first step was building a home console. I remember those nights in a dark office, the light of a lamp falling on our sketches, and Shigeru Miyamoto enthusiastically drawing characters and levels for a new game. We worked around the clock, arguing, laughing, and arguing again. The engineers said it was impossible. Hardware limitations, technical errors, the risk of complete failure in the market. And I felt that if we didn't try, we would never know what we could have created. And then came the first crisis. The first prototype of the console barely worked. The cartridges wouldn't insert, the screens flickered, and I could almost feel the whole team thinking, we've lost. It was scary. We had used up all our resources, and the results weren't good. But it was at that moment that I realized, the real magic comes when you don't give up. We redesigned the design, invented new ways to connect cartridges. Every failure turned into knowledge. And finally, the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, was born. I remember the first day it was introduced in the store. Kids and adults came up, picked up the controllers, and everyone's eyes lit up with excitement. And then Super Mario Bros. Came along. I've never seen such a concentration of joy. Every jump of Mario, every clink of a coin, every small victory of a player. It was the music of our success. But great successes also bring great challenges. Competitors who laughed at our cartridges and characters went on the offensive. Sony and Sega were eager to win back the market. We were small compared to them, but we had faith and creativity. We realized that we couldn't fight with hardware power alone. We had to create a world that people wanted to return to. This is how legendary franchises were born. The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Kirby. Each game was like a new universe that we built together with the players. Miyamoto and the team felt the world in every pixel, in every sound. And I saw how a small company from Kyoto became a global force. This transformation taught me another important lesson. Risk is a necessity for growth. If you're afraid to lose, you'll never gain. Every jump Mario makes, every moment a child smiles behind a controller is a reminder that true courage is rewarded. And although we were already at the peak of popularity, I knew this was just the beginning. The world was changing quickly, technology was advancing, and we had to be ready to change again, otherwise we would remain in the past. But for now, we were celebrating the first big victories and felt that we could change the industry forever. I will never forget the moment I realized, We are no longer just a Japanese company. We have become a force that can change the lives of millions of people. It all started with Donkey Kong and our little hero, Jumping Mario. Every jump he made was like a symbol of our struggle. Every obstacle on the level was our own struggle with the unknown, with competition, with fear. The first Western market was like a vast ocean full of unknown waves. Critics didn't believe that a Japanese company could conquer America. Distributors laughed. These are children's games. They will never become a serious business. But I remember the smell of new cartridges in the trucks, the sound of the first fans in New York screaming with joy, playing Donkey Kong in small arcades. And then I realized, emotions are stronger than skepticism. Then came Super Mario Bros., and the revolution was complete. We felt a wave of fans rolling across the world. In America, Europe, Asia, children and adults laughed, were nervous, were happy, all because of our characters, our worlds. Every level, every musical theme, every little sound created an emotional connection with the players. But global success also brought global problems. Piracy, competitors, huge market expectations. I sat in the office, looking at the sales charts, and I felt the pressure. We can't afford to make a mistake, I told myself. Every decision, every game, every cartridge could change our future. The pressure was fierce, and the future of the company was at stake. We focused on quality and innovation, not quick money. This strategy paid off. Nintendo became a symbol of reliability, creativity, and joy. Every new character, from Luigi to Zelda, was created with the player in mind, with the idea of giving moments of happiness. And then another miracle happened. We realized that video games could bring families together. I saw parents sitting with their children playing on the Nintendo Entertainment System, laughing together, celebrating their first victory, hugging each other after a difficult level. We created more than just a game. We created a shared experience. This period taught me, success is not just fame or money, but the ability to change the world around you through small joys. Nintendo has become global, but most importantly, we have remained true to our vision, to bring joy and create magic that cannot be measured by graphs or profits. We went from a tiny card shop to a company that holds the hearts of millions of players around the world in our hands. And while the future promised new challenges, we knew, if you believe in your dream and don't give up in the face of difficulties, nothing is impossible. The world was changing rapidly. The 2000s brought mobile phones, online gaming, and competition that was hard to predict. We were faced with a new reality. How do you stay relevant when the industry is changing so rapidly? I felt the pressure more than ever. Every meeting, every test of a new prototype was like a battle for survival. Then came the DS and Wii. We did something no one expected. Instead of racing for power, we focused on gameplay innovation and accessibility. I remember the first day of the Wii presentation. The hall was shaking with excitement, and I stood there watching children and adults simultaneously waving their hands, controlling the game characters. We risked everything, and this risk paid off. But it wasn't all easy. Mobile gaming, piracy, new competitors, Sony and Microsoft, created tremendous pressure. I sat in the silence of my office, listening to the sound of rain falling on the roof, and thought, how do we make Nintendo stay in people's hearts? We understood that we needed a revolution, not an evolution. And then Nintendo Switch was born. A hybrid console that you can take with you, play at home or on the go. Every detail, from the design to the controllers, created a new experience. We took a second chance, invested all the resources, the trust of the fans, the faith of the team. And when the Switch was in the hands of the players, I saw their faces, surprise, joy, delight. It was a moment when fear and doubt turned into joy and confidence again. This period taught me another important lesson. Crisis is the fuel for change. If you are afraid of losing, you stop. If you see challenges as opportunities, you create the future. Nintendo didn't just adapt. We became a leader who showed that joy, accessibility, and innovation are more important than the race for technology. I remember the team sitting together after the first successful launch of Switch. We laughed, we cried, we hugged. And that's when I realized that the true strength of a company is not in the products, not in the profits, but in the people who believe in the dream and are willing to take risks together. Sitting in my office today, looking at my collection of consoles and games, I am overwhelmed by the incredible journey we have taken. From a small card shop in Kyoto to a global company that brings joy to millions of people around the world. I have seen the ups, I have seen the downs, I have seen the fear and doubt, but I have never once given up on my dream.